Okay, this one should be pretty short. The basic goal here is to map two sets of concepts. You have Bion's concepts of basic assumption groups, and you have two mechanisms that you find in groups in when you're dealing with groups and group dynamics. You have fight and flight and tend and befriend. Fight and flight is the part of the group that goes to war, and you have tend and befriend, which is the part of the group that tends to create nested groups, cooperative groups. Now, in the past, it has been associated with fight or flight was associated with males, and tend and befriend was associated with females. Uh, but I think the gender dichotomy is sort of a false dichotomy and leads to inabilities to think through some of the concepts. So, if you go more with a Bion approach, what you're finding is that cortisol and testosterone are the two determinants of dominance. When when the stress hits a certain level, your group is going to break into dominance hierarchies based off the level of testosterone in the group, and that's the male aggressive aspect. Uh, on the other end, you have a lot of studies that show that when you put women under stress, uh, and they cooperate. Um, so that's a tend and befriend. But if you map, like I said, Beyond has a work group model where a group is setting out to do something. But above the work group model, you have basic assumption groups, which are groups that are performing a set of scripts, set of behaviors that are based on unconscious form, unconscious assumptions, unconscious perceptions of reality. It's sort of a mindless behavior, habit-driven behavior, emotion-driven behavior, schema type behavior. Um, this model will tie into the couple other models. They're going to tie into the attachment theory model, which is the mechanism of oxytocin in social interactions, as well as the mechanism of social computing. On the other end, it's also going to tie to Porges' polyvagal theory model, which is the model of the 11th cranial nerve in your brain, uh, which 10th, 11th, which I've done a video on that on hypnotic thoughts, so you can just go back and watch that. But the main point of that is that at a certain level of stress, you go into fight, flight, freeze. Uh, and that is the point at which there's a glucocorticoid cascade that separates your prefrontal cortex and your social brain, your empathy, your narrative brain from your amygdala. We also did a video about amygdala hijack, which you can connect there. Amygdala hijack is also called grip function. It's also called schema behavior. Uh, it's also called, well, it's your standard set of fight flight responses. So that kind of unifies three or four of the different models that I've been looking at. You want to introduce there the default mode network and working memory. There's a bunch of studies that I pulled up that demonstrate default mode network, working memory are actually neuroenergetically intertwined. So that's something we'll have to explore shortly. Um, there's more, but those are the core models. Default mode network has a lot of association with internalizing, externalizing disorder. I think posterior cingulate cortex is the part that's associated with a lot of the emotional aspects of sense of self, and that's one of the two nodes. I'm blanking on what the second node is, but there's a bunch of studies on that as far as the dance between the default mode network and task related network. You can also find that on hypnoticthoughts.com. Um, yeah. So I just had a conversation with Andy Bryan that made me think of all this. So thanks, Andy, for prompting that.